Hello, welcome to today's broadcast, in which we'll be talking about the various evidence that post boxes have been removed, mail sorting machines have been decommissioned, and what else have they done? Just slowed the mail, and people are reporting their mail has been lost. Veterans are dependent on the United States Postal Service for their medications, as are other people, as are elderly people. And it's all a fairly reasonably predictable development in authoritarian devolution of the American government. Hi, Alan. But the good news is that the Montana removal of post boxes in Montana kickstarted some outrage, and that a head of the postal union in, where's she from, that lady? Was it Wisconsin? I can find out. Iowa, Kimberly Carroll, president of the Iowa Postal Service Workers Union. She talked to Rachel Maddow. She was invited on because she went public, telling a journalist that the mail sorting machine in her office had been decommissioned, and that she had heard reports of this happening around in other parts of the state in Iowa. So it turns out lots of places, 671 mail sorting machines have been removed so far. And Mark Meadows, the current chief of staff to the president and former House representative Republican, has been on various news shows desperately trying to reassure people that no more post boxes will be removed between now and the election, and that any suggestion otherwise is fear-mongering from the Democrats. So, of course, the Postal Service should be sabotaged. And look, we have a little troll saying, good for the Postal Service to be sabotaged, because, voting is just one of the ways in which Democrats cheat by voting. Voting itself is viewed as unfair. How do you expect President Trump to win an election if Americans are allowed to vote? Jane says she's listening while she rows. That's so good, Jane. And I can join with you today because I walked for an hour and a half with a friend today, which felt awesome. My legs felt invigorated, and now maybe I'll be able to go to sleep really easily. Hi. Hi, Leslie. I'm so glad you loved my broadcast last night. I wonder what was lovable about it. I don't remember, other than I couldn't sing. My voice was so tired, so I lip synced, I think, to some Hamilton music, and people were still very supportive of that, which was funny. So cute. I have the sweetest supporters. So there's something in terms of polling that I wanted to draw your attention to, because there was a thread by someone on Twitter who ran a bit of an analysis of some different reports, and is contrasting where Clinton was at the highest point, when she was at her highest point in various polls, and Biden's current polling. So maybe you'd like to look at that. What I can do is show you the stats. I hope that will be interesting to you. Okay. So have a look. Yes, we've heard the news that Biden is doing better than Clinton with white college graduates. So white college graduates have been probably paying more attention to COVID news and are a little more likely to be horrified by Trump's inaction on that front of providing leadership during an invisible crisis, where an epidemic that's spread by a virus that's not visible with the naked eye, that you have to pay attention to scientists with microscopes for information about. And they've been telling us, actually, we found out, we've looked at the data, mask wearing is providing a physical barrier to some of the particles that escape from your mouth. That is how contamination is spreading. That is how the virus is getting transmitted. When you wear one, it has a protective factor for you, but Also, more broadly speaking, everybody wears them. It protects each other because so many of the transmitters are asymptomatic people walking unconscious wounded who spread the virus. And one popular doctor account on Twitter today, Dr. Tom Frieden, said, if we don't control coronavirus, it will control us. And you can kind of see that happening in some cases where people don't want to be losing out on college football, but that's happening because the virus is too out of control. And it's hard going to wait for a competent, capable president in January of next year to start addressing this problem. What would be great if Trump started addressing it now, if we managed to exert sufficiently concerted pressure on Republican senators and Republican politicians to at least tell Trump, look, you should do something. We don't want to lose our seats. Please, not just talk that you say that you have a plan, but actually have a plan, actually fund testing, actually scale up testing and have a national testing strategy, not just lip service. Anyway, so let's have a look. Here's white college graduates here. So there's various polls and then the total here. And white no college graduates. So white people who didn't go to college. For Biden, 55% in favor, 40% for Trump. And whites with no college education, yep, they like Trump more still. But look at that margin relative to Clinton. So for Clinton, white, no college education, that was 29 in favor of Clinton and 66 in favor of Trump. So that's a fall of 11 points in support for Trump between Clinton and Biden. That's an erosion. That's people who've lost jobs in manufacturing that Trump promised to resurrect or promised to maintain, and he can't even do that. That Biden-Clinton difference, let's have a look with white college-educated people. Wow, Clinton even lost white college-educated graduates to Trump. Close, 45 to 48. That's because it's been since 1964 since a Democratic president won a majority of white voters. And everybody always forgets that because it's so intuitive to people to dismiss the value of Black women and Black voters. So Black voters are the backbone of the Democratic Party. They are active in getting out the vote, in being activists for the party, but their contribution is dismissed and people think, oh no, it's just white people, white, smart people who vote for Democratic candidates who clearly have the policies and the chops to improve people's lives. Not so. Look at that. Trump won white college-educated voters by 3 points in 2016, whereas Biden has a 15-point lead amongst white college-educated voters, but circumstances have propelled him to that point. I think he would have had a lead in any case because Trump has lost his novelty value. Trump is no longer, let's see what happens if we throw a disruptor into the mix. All of my MBA stuff told me that sometimes you need circuit breakers to introduce change. Well, we've seen the circuit break that Trump constitutes now. We've seen the type of change he brings about, and the change is very much in favor of more corruption, more loss of jobs, more deaths, more utter incompetence and mismanagement, and more dereliction of duty, betrayal of veterans, betrayal of active serving United States troops, and that has seeped through. Some of that seeped through even past the strong propaganda wall that Trump erected around his activities by encouraging people to disregard the press reporting on his mistakes, even in a way that was often craven and often gave false balance and made false equivalents of Trump's embrace of neo-Nazis. Mr. Ed is going to send some info. Okie dokie. Leslie enjoyed my reading of the foreword from Michael Cohen's Disloyal. Thank you. Do I feel that Trump should give more money to the post office? No, I don't, because Trump does not have the power of the purse. And to ask me a question about what Trump should give money to is to buy in to Trump's subsuming into the executive branch the powers of the legislative branch that has the powers of the purse. What can make one look dapper? I think I've missed where that comment fitted in. All right. Yes, well, white women with college education are Trump's most significantly worsening demographic. So no, white and black Democratic voters, black women are Trump's worst demographic. It's like 96% or something. It's very, very high that they see Trump for what he is and reject him. But the greatest loss of a Trump demographic is amongst white women with college educations and suburban women, I think. But Trump has also lost support from white, non-college educated women as well. There hasn't been that much erosion from white men without a college education, but oh, masks make you look dapper. Yes, I've got a nice new black one today. Ta-da! Feel like Joe Biden. He was one of the first people that I saw in public wearing a black mask. All right, so let's have a look at some more of these stats. Okay. Oh, yes, Biden is winning over another traditional Republican bloc, voters over 65. So all winning Dems have held this since Carter. If you're a Democrat who wins, then you appeal to voters over 65. And Biden's also doing historically well in the suburbs, outpacing Clinton by 18%. And this is notable considering Trump's recent, less than subtle appeals to suburbanites, who were a key swing demographic in 2016. So yes, Trump has been appealing to suburbanites, saying Biden's going to let low-income people into your suburbs, and which will ruin them. And only I will protect you. So let's have a look. That's the next column. Okay, so over 65. 52% for men for Trump amongst men and 41 for Clinton. With Biden, it's more even, 46 for Trump. So how many is that lost? That's 6 points down for Trump. Female, let's see, 41 for Trump, 54 for Clinton, and now 55 for Biden and 36 for Trump. So it's fallen for Trump. There's some undecided people amongst them. Let's check out the suburbs. Okay, urban, suburban, and rural. 49 for Trump down to 38. And support has gone from 45 for Clinton to 54 for Biden. Cool. And this was the one I really wanted to get to as well. A popular myth these numbers explode is that Biden's struggling with young voters. So when pollsters divide different age groups differently, he's currently running 21% better than Clinton with the youngest group, 18 to 29. And so what this pollster also points out, this analyst points out, is that polls were accurate for Clinton and Trump, but the election predictions were inaccurate. So the conclusions people drew based on those polls were inaccurate, but the actual polls themselves were close to the results, which is reassuring. If we were afraid that the Russians meddled with actual totals much, it sounds like no, probably they didn't. they might have, they definitely ran a campaign to try and decrease Black democratic support for Hillary Clinton. So here we have, look at this difference between the young people. So this is the 18 to 29-year-old age group. For Hillary Clinton, 55 in favor for her and 36 for Trump. That's for Biden, 64 to 29. And these are surveys, this is a whole heap of surveys taken before Kamala Harris was selected as the vice presidential running mate, which is having a really reinvigorating effect on a lot of Democratic voters who are saying that they're excited about it, which is all very cool. So we've got some things to feel good about. I'll show you some things that are easier to read than that. Bonjour. Hello. All right, let's check out these graphs, which are a bit broader to read. So this is the national likely voters. And we're remembering that the Electoral College exists and that it overturns the result of the popular vote. So we know this is not strictly speaking that relevant, but if the gap gets very big consistently, then we can be reassured that the swing states, it'll be too difficult to overcome that lead, that there has been a general shift towards Biden. And that's reflected in the national polls. It'll be reflected at least to a degree in the swing states, which means the Electoral College is not something that Trump can win. Among women, voters under 30 and white voters with college degrees, Biden continues to hold a substantial lead. And of course, Biden now leads Mr. Trump amongst Black voters 90% to 6%, which is higher than the 72% of Black voters who backed Hillary Clinton heading into her nominating convention in 2016. And those final weeks before the election probably eroded that 72% even more, because we know that there was concerted Russian intelligence efforts. And of course, James Comey coming out 2 weeks before the election as well. That was a very critical event in changing the conviction of Democratic voters that they would make an effort to go out and support Hillary Clinton. So here's Hispanic voters. This is very exciting. 71% Biden, 24% Trump. Because sometimes it hasn't been as high, and I've felt that might have been a conviction based on religious convictions, that Biden or that the Democrats are more seen to allow for choice, reproductive choice. And religious convictions can sometimes compel people to vote for Republicans who they think will reduce the number of abortions. Although actually, there's always less abortions under Democratic presidents, because Democratic presidents strengthen social safety nets, which make women more comfortable in welcoming new unexpected additions to their family. That's the real way you bring the abortion rate down, not driving it into illegal backyard abortions, but by helping women in insecure financial circumstances. And of course, libertarian Republican ideology tells you don't help people, that just encourages them to fail. And a lot of people endorse that and internalize that ideology. It's not true. It's not it doesn't hold up very well. People, when you help people get a basic level of assets, they are statistically much more likely to flourish and then in turn give back to the society in which they are embedded. And you're more likely to have a cohesive society with a host of other benefits as well. So here you go, suburban voters, 53% Biden, 40% Trump. And who's enthusiastic to vote this year? Republicans, Democrats, and independents. But it's actually changed over time. So if you have a look here, amongst likely voters nationwide, so the blue is Biden, obviously. That's June the 2nd, July the 26th. And then by the 16th of August, both voters from both parties are 82% strong in their support for their candidate. Check that out. So it was 72% for Biden in June. Republicans have increased their strength of their support for Trump. God bless them. Crazy fools. They're all getting sucked into QAnon conspiracies via Facebook algorithms. Thanks, Facebook, you goddamn traitor. There we go. So I think that's probably all you need to hear from me today. I hope that's invigorating. The success of the voters in Montana in pressuring local officials and to speak up on their behalf to change, to bring an end to that movement of taking away post boxes from different locations. That's been stopped. And now there's a lot of attention on the decommissioning of mail sorting machines as well. So hopefully they're doing that less now as well. And with any luck, more public pressure will lead to the restoration of those sorting machines. I know that the Postal Service employs a lot of vets, and their livelihoods are all at risk if people start to not use the Postal Service anymore because Trump and his collaborator, Louis DeJoy, have taken so many significant steps to sabotage the operations of the Postal Service. Trump's just going to keep trying it on about pretending that Biden's corrupt. And the thing is about Biden is he's a very known quantity. He was vice president for 8 years, and he doesn't have that same vitriol built up against him as Hillary Clinton did. She was a woman, so it was easier to believe bad things about her because of latent sexism and distrust of women and distrust of feminism and its effect on the world. I realize that history kind of relies on the desperation of women for, in a broad sense, the sexual gratification of men. So the fact that politicians have left typically female-dominated professions such as restaurant servers with wages that were zero during Theodore Roosevelt's era. It was not included in the New Deal because they wanted to make restaurant servers just rely on tips, just so desperate for the blessing of other people that they had to be super smiley, super friendly, super appealing to just get enough tip money to survive. And that now the progress since the great New Deal under in Theodore Roosevelt's time in the mid-1930s, that the wage for restaurant service is now, the base wage is like $2 an hour in some states. And that there's a $5 wage gap between white men working in restaurants and Black women working in restaurants in terms of when you add up the tips and compare their earnings. So that's an interesting thing to consider. Have people historically failed to address the circumstances of tip earners because they're female-dominated professions, and people just go, well, we're comfortable with women living like that, just being that bit desperate, having to be smiley, and just more broadly, maybe dependent on a male partner for earning money. So you're a woman, you would like to support your children, you're single, you'd like to support yourself, but you have to attract a mate. You have to have somebody with a bigger earning capacity whose salary is more protected by legislation. $2 an hour for a wage is not right, regardless of tips being extras. $2 base wage is not cool. So that's my feeling. It does feel like the USPS effort is quite desperate, and it could be quite effective were it not that everybody's very freaking outraged that it's getting widely reported on in news stations, and it's difficult for Republicans to openly get behind. I can see Republicans online pretending that it's not happening. They're like, it's a rumor, it's a myth that the post boxes were being taken away. They were being taken away to be redecorated, or they were being moved. but those things are are not holding up. Those arguments are not holding up very well. And Trump and his postmaster have really brought upon themselves this powerful negative association of, we ruin the things that everybody likes, that has broad bipartisan support, the National Postal Service. And just as the COVID-19 virus brought a lot of immediate evidence to independent voters that Trump was stuffing things up and that people were getting sick and the virus wasn't a hoax, so too does the delayed mail provide a great deal of immediate evidence for people that Trump is stuffing things up. And that evidence doesn't work on everybody because propaganda is very powerful. The human imagination is very strong and it can latch on to cult followings. But some people will be able to see past propaganda and say, I need my mail. This is not okay. Rachel Maddow said, hope does not work in these situations. Shaming does not work. Trump cannot be shamed into doing the right thing. But noise works. And it doesn't work all of the time, but noise is more likely to work because noise stopped the removal of post boxes from Montana. So many post boxes were already removed. It brought that practice to a halt, so no more post boxes were removed. Leslie's pointing out that her mum is a vet and a Gold Star wife, depends on meds at the Veterans Affairs doctors, delivered on time via the Postal Service. Yes. And small businesses use the Postal Service as a relatively cheap and efficient way of delivering packages that they were selling via mail because of COVID-19 and reduced store hours or people coming in and people buying online instead. But people have been reporting that some of those packages now are coming by different vendors because Louis DeJoy owns $1 million worth of stock in competitors to the USPS. So his businesses are getting stronger and his stock will rise as people go, oh, I can't send things by USPS anymore because they're getting lost. They're not turning up. And we know why now. The mail sorting machines were being taken apart and put in the rubbish, and processes were being completely changed so that mail was being rerouted. Instead of being sent locally, it was being sent to a bigger processing facility and then sent back. So just adding weeks and really stressing people out when they get a bill that says, this bill is already due. You've only just got it, but it was due 3 days ago. Or a form that says you will only be eligible for this unemployment insurance if you filled it out 2 days ago. Imagine the stress that people are under. And yes, that's a very Republican saying, which is very libertarian. And it's been internalized in a lot of people, and it's really savaged your system of helping and supporting the least fortunate. And it's been very corrosive to your society. So it sounds good. It sounds invigorating. But broadly adopted, that view has allowed Americans to vote for candidates who undermined their entitlements and undermined their social safety nets, because they're like, oh, we can't give you fish. You're just going to have a meal. And we don't really have any plans to teach you to fish, but we just know that the wrong thing to do is to give you fish or to give you benefits or to give you SNAP. That has increased the social acceptance. It's increased it to a critical mass of people who vote for Republicans because they believe that. So I understand your conservative background and your military background, Leslie, but I want you to think about that statement about the fish and how it's been potentially abused to get people to vote against the interests of people in their community and against the social cohesion of their communities and against their success and prosperity as a nation. Because having people who can't support themselves, who have to live so close to the edge of poverty because they're not, their government hasn't legislated for them to have tolerable wages, and they're always this close to losing their house or getting evicted. People who are poised at the precipice all the time are more stressed, have relationships that are more fragile, and once they fall out of the system, once they get evicted, it is much harder for them to reintegrate themselves into society and get jobs. So it contributes, that statement contributes to the growth of a homeless population, of a long-term unemployed population to societies that have more and more people living on its fringes, unable to hold a job and unable to pay adequate rent, or to have a rental history that attracts landlords to want to rent to them. Oh, look, Elon Musk is super corrupt. A supporter of his, I'm presuming you're Russian or Moldovan, or just a really stupid Elon Musk supporter, who can't even spell Democrats, says used to be abortion, not anymore. Yeah, most Democrats have been pretty pro-choice for a number of decades. Yes, that window of tolerance of reproductive choice has expanded to saying women should have the right to abort a child, an unborn child, even up to the moment of birth, which is difficult for a lot of people to contend with. But I'm fine with that as long as it's for a medical reason, because you can stand your ground to someone who's trying to kill you. And even if someone's inadvertently trying to kill you, you can still stand your ground. If they just really want to rob your home, they don't really want to kill you, but they're shooting at you, you can defend yourselves. And babies can accidentally cause their mother's death. And women don't have to take that. Or in a just society, women can have chemotherapy for a cancer and they don't have to say, oh, well, I can't do it because the law says that baby's life has to be preserved at any cost. If a woman's afraid for their life, they get to say, this baby that is not yet born is not on an equal legal footing to me, and I can avail myself of any medical treatment I need to save my life. And I'm okay with that. In Israel, they have little boards that consider women's appeals to have a late-term abortion, but it's still pretty easy. I'm happy to have conversations about how easy it should be. I'm happy for there to be a debate, because late-term babies are sentient. They learn things. So yes, I don't think it should be easy to kill them, to end their lives. They have lives. Their unborn lives shouldn't be the same legal footing as a sentient born person, because if you threaten the life of the person whose body you're living in, then it's easier for me to grant exceptions. But anyway, it's a complicated business, but Democrats definitely support easy access abortion, for first-term babies. None of this whole, the minute a zygote is formed, that baby has equal legal footing to anyone else and must be protected at all costs, regardless of the wishes of a woman who's fallen inadvertently pregnant or a man with whom she has a family. Yes. You got your insulin and it's 9 days late. Dems need to amplify your statement. Are you talking about the fish statement? Oh, no, you're talking about this statement. Good. The meds. I think those stories are getting out. A lot of people have those stories. Harris is definitely proving to be a very exciting candidate, not just to Hispanic and Black voters, but to a lot of white Democratic voters who support a competent, powerful woman being in a position of power, bringing to the table a more visceral understanding of the issues and concerns of voters of color and American citizens of color. And that's a great point, Leslie. 1 billion Christmas cards are delivered, so 300 million voter ballots can be as well. We probably don't know that much about why Hispanic people vote for Trump. Oh, that's good. There's let's check it out. Lincoln Project. Always good to have a Lincoln Project ad so that I don't have to talk about it. I'm not seeing an ad for them. I can see that this is the plan that they're encouraging, which is to, got to get rid of this. Are you sure it's the Lincoln Project attacking the underfunding of the USPS? Or is it somebody else? Because there are a few different Twitter places. Okay. So Lincoln Project point out, learn how to vote, make a plan, tell a friend to do the same thing and vote. Social pressure has proven to be very strong. Getting 5 of your friends to all talk with each other about what you're going to do and how you're going to get it done is really good. So please have these conversations about Axios has a resource, when and how to vote in all 50 states. That's great. It has when to apply for absentee ballots or where to apply, the deadline to request application, early in-person voting date, and mail ballot deadline. We have to go earlier than the mail ballot deadline because of the delays that Trump has put in the postal system. But people are resolving to find drop boxes as well or hand them in person to their local elector's office. But yeah, I'm going to retweet that. What a good resource. Thank you, Lincoln Project. The people in Belarus are out protesting in the tens of thousands, which is exciting. Oh, look, this is the New York Mag ad that you might, title that you might like. The chaotic, desperate, last-minute Trump 2020 reboot. Inside the most disorganized, unscrupulous, self-sabotaging presidential campaign since the last one. But yes, the attacking the Postal Service. Yeah, so I'm not finding out. I'm not seeing an ad from the Postal Service, from the Lincoln Project. So I think you must be talking about something else. But we will listen to this dude. How many minutes is this? 1 minute. Okay.
Sure. Well, Lindsay, as we said in the ad, Donald Trump used 5 deferments to avoid service in Vietnam, but he's finally decided that he wants to go to war, and it's a war against the U.S. Postal Service as part of a ham-handed scheme to cheat in November's election. And he doesn't care about the collateral damage. He doesn't care about that 330,000 number, the number of veterans who rely every day on the Postal Service to deliver their prescriptions. He doesn't care about the 97,000 veterans who are employed by the Postal Service. And he doesn't care about the ability of our men and women in uniform who are deployed in harm's way to vote in this election by mail. It's unacceptable. People are rightfully outraged. And look, our message is pretty clear. Donald Trump found a way to get out of the Vietnam War. He should find a way to get out of the war that he has started with the Postal Service, with our nation's veterans, and with our democracy itself.
Yeah, and you mentioned prescriptions. The Postal Service is one of the largest employers of veterans. So how do you think these attacks on the Postal Service are going to influence veterans when they turn out their votes come November?
Good point. I'm sad I didn't get to hear it. I know, Leslie, you have been a model of civic virtue and commitment and hard work, and I applaud you for it. So studies do illustrate that people who start from a reasonably high asset base, so not to say that you had stuff because you're a single mom. How many children? Single mom with a toddler in university. Teen mom. And you accepted government help for daycare and tuition. Wow, government help for daycare would have been awesome. My parents looked after my son when I went and did my bachelor's degree. But sometimes they just let him watch TV. No, abortion did not come about to kill babies of color. But I'm glad you're pro-choice. And yes, it's hard for governments to teach people how to fish, i.e., just helping people, just providing people with financial help when they're in difficulty is helpful. And you accepted help, so you know it's useful. Yes, it doesn't endow people with character, but character is not the job of government to cultivate, nor does helping people cultivate lack of character. I think that's really a key mythology for us to undermine. Giving people help does not make them lazy or dependent. That's a myth. It actually just helps them. And some people are just dependent and helpless, and that's just some people. But if we have our attention overly turned on that and we listen too much to propaganda about welfare queens, etc., then that absorbs all of our focus and it attracts all of our loyalty to that idea. But that idea does not deserve our loyalty, and welfare queens is usually predicated on catering to people's vulnerability to racist arguments, and we shouldn't do it. We should oppose that because racism is bad, and it tends to be built on a function of not engaging with history and the ripples of racism that still impact people now, that it's not laziness that less African Americans are employed, that it's often outright discrimination from potential employers. And research has proven it over and over again that employers disregard CVs. If you keep them the same, but just alter the name to sound more African American, that candidate CV is more likely to be thrown in the bin. So there's no guarantee that any employer is racist, but racism is so pervasive that bin tendency for applications from people of color happens over and over again to a higher statistical likelihood. Harris is fearless. Hey. Oh, we hate Trump. We hate the Republican. We hate Republican leadership because it was all a lie, as many Republican operatives are now confessing. They may have thought, or at least hoped, that it was true, that they wanted to promote financial conservatism and they wanted to promote character. It was just very sophisticated psychological ops on Americans who wanted to hear about character and how it would be cultivated by government. And they believed propaganda that said government assistance discourages people from developing character and fortitude. Actually, societies that help people in difficult circumstances are more likely to thrive. And parts of America have stayed in third world circumstances precisely because America's got these great attributes. And it's not necessary to have the bad attributes of disregarding people in difficulty and undermining social services. That is not a necessary part of America's greatness, but people have been encouraged to believe that. I like the congratulations. What am I missing? Ah, you did the same. Yes. Yeah, Rick Wilson helped elect a lot of Republicans, though, so I'm not going to revere him as a god, but I do like listening to his podcast because he sounds reassuring. But he's confessed to doing all manner of things, like helping encourage Greens candidates to run, knowing that they would peel off votes from Democratic candidates. He appreciates the whole edifice of the Republican Party is an artifice. He talks about that. And he spends some of every podcast not necessarily directly apologizing, but indirectly apologizing. And it is good to have him on our side now. I definitely am grateful to have savvy political operatives be on the side of good. Oh, yes, one of those balloon people. He does do that. He's a distraction. He's a carnival barker for the Republican Party so that the Koch brothers can get all of their destructive agenda passed of undermining public institutions, eroding public schools, eroding the postal service, etc. All of those things are boxes to tick on the wish lists of wealthy, corrupt, power-hungry billionaires who have set their sights on winding back the New Deal for Americans and winding back civil rights. It must feel a bit like commando voting, that everybody's making a plan. How can we get there, etc. You were applauding the video clip? Ah, yes. Well, veterans speaking out against Trump is excellent. Nonprofits that teach life skills are great. We shouldn't expect that from our government, but within communities, we can share skills, etc. You watch your grandsons while parents are working, and yes, there was a lot of Sesame Street. I knew it. I knew there was. But Sesame Street's actually a quality TV show. I don't mind when my son watches Sesame Street, or when he did. How many are unemployed now? 15 million? Or is it more? That's good, Leslie. Oh, Veronica doesn't like the moderators. I'm grateful for the moderators. I think they do valuable work. Oh, look, this is the new troll thing to promote Kanye. Yeah, we know about the Kanye thing, and we know he's meeting Jared Kushner to try and do that. Biden has very strong support from the African American community, from the Black community in the United States, very strong. And Trump's lost that novelty factor. It's not as easy to run disruptive third-party candidates now. Like, who knows who's going to win? People think it's Hillary, so why not do a protest vote of a third party and make your opinion felt and teach that Hillary a lesson? There's no Hillary to teach a lesson now. The QAnon group are massively trying to suck people in to a religion in which Trump is a rescuing God, and people who are unemployed are more likely to have had spent time at home and getting sucked in via Facebook to this bullshit cult. But I don't think the Kanye thing's going to work super well. They are fast. They get new things going. All right, well, let's see if there's any more Lincoln Project ads to watch. What if I put USPS in the search bar and then go look for videos? And then that way we might get the ad that you were referencing. Oh, wait, that was a very good point. For those people who don't know, the only reason the USPS runs a deficit is because of a Republican law passed in 2006 intended to sabotage and private it, called a pre-funding mandate, in which they have to have 75 years worth of cash to pay for the medical expenses of their employees. 75 years worth of cash, something ridiculous. Okay. Yep, people are making noise outside the Postmaster General's house. Alisto Manchin sounding a little bit more like a Democrat in terms of protecting a public institution, which is a very Democratic thing to do, as opposed to a Republican thing, which is to kind of hide it, but then secretly organize the appointment of people who will white ant public institutions. So that's nice. Oh, look, here's a fan cam. Is this what you're talking about? We'll do it. Mr. Postman. Wow, that's a Beatles song, I think, originally, but that was not the greatest. All right, is this another thing? Very short. That's just more like a GIF of post office. Okay. Oh, here's a veterans ad for the post office.
After 5 draft deferments and faked bone spur excuses, Donald Trump has finally gone to war with the U.S. Postal Service. Yeah, the post office. The one that American troops have relied on for over 200 years to bring news from home and deliver our absentee ballots safely back home. And when our service was through, to deliver life-saving prescriptions on time from the VA. Today and every single workday, 330,000 veterans are due a prescription drug delivery by the U.S. Postal Service. And today, tens of thousands aren't getting their prescriptions because Donald Trump declared war on the mail, firing workers, disrupting deliveries, defunding operations. The thing is, this is just a warm-up for the fall. Donald Trump plans to disrupt absentee ballots and vote by mail for millions of Americans in the middle of a pandemic he failed to control. Because Donald Trump knows if the mail delivers ballots to America's veterans, we'll deliver a message right back. You lose.
That's great.
After
5 deferments and faked bone spur excuses. I think the USPS Board of Directors have been advocating for that $25 billion relief package that the Democrats have been advocating for in negotiations about the next stimulus package. So I think they want the Postal Service to be supported. Your dad voted from a foxhole in the Battle of the Bulge in the Ardennes. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Bob. All right, I'm going to bed. Thank you all so much for your time and your energy today. As always, thank you to the moderators. You do a great job keeping out the undesirable elements if they're going to just come on here and irritate people and spout and just shout Trump slogans at us in capital letters. We don't have no truck with that, and we're all about being very assertive about what is unacceptable. Messing with the post office, unacceptable. Degrading democratic institutions like voting, unacceptable. Putting obstacles in the way of people's ability to exercise their vote, disenfranchising voters, unacceptable. America's got a big message for Donald Trump. And when I say America, I mean the non-brainwashed Americans who aren't in the Republican Party, but a lot of independents who are waiting to see who they'll vote for. Well, this week will have been a powerful message to them. See ya. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Mum. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Michelle. Cheers, everybody. Is it Molly? Have a great day. And I thanked Bob. And don't thank Veronica Clark. She can go away. My community thanks you. Oh, bless you, Alan. That's lovely. Jane. Thank you, Jane. Thank you for reminding me that you're here as well. It was lovely to see you. I hope your row has been wonderful. Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye.